Hi, and welcome to a Symantec VidBit video on how to establish a failover pair within the Management Center. My name is Greg Mooney, one of the Network Protection TAMs here at Symantec, and I'll walk you through the steps needed to create this configuration. There are some prerequisites that you need to be aware of prior to creating the active-passive failover pair. You'll need 2 licensed installations of Management Center on the same version, 1.5.2 or higher, but we always recommend that you be on the latest version of Management Center whenever possible. These installations can be any combination of hardware appliance or VM installation, with either of the devices being the primary or secondary appliance. You'll need to ensure that TCP port 22 is open and available between the appliances should they be in separate security zones, as this is the transport they use to synchronize their data and establish the heartbeats. Be sure to have the IP address of the intended primary server handy. You'll need this when executing commands to configure the pair. As always, ensure you have backed up your intended primary management center and exported the backup to a secondary location should you need it in the future. There are some things to take into consideration around active-passive failover setup. Not all data is replicated between the 2 devices when they're in a failover pair. Due to the nature of the application and underlying operating system, the system settings and backup images are not carried forward to the secondary device. Things like any external authentication setup will need to be recorded elsewhere should you need them in the future. Also, the connection between our WSS, the Web Security Service, or cloud as most people know it, is only established with the primary management center. Should the primary fail, you'll need to re-establish that connection on the secondary device once it's promoted. Now with this background information, let's get into a demo of setting up the failover pair. You'll need to have access to the CLI of both management centers via PuTTY, serial port, VM console access, whatever you have available to you. In this demo, I have both my management centers running on the ESX platform and on Management Center 1.11.1.1. We'll configure the primary first, and I've already performed a backup of my primary, and from the GUI, I'll show you where that is. First, we log on to the Management Center. We go to Jobs and Job History. Here we see that there's 100% backup complete of my Management Center, and I've exported this to a secondary server in my network. You'll also notice that across the top on the menu bar there is an icon showing a warning device and 2 devices that are OK, and some white space between the alarm bell and these icons. This white space will have a new icon once we have our failover established. So let's now log on to the VM vSphere client and let's set up the primary MC. First we'll enter the command line and the enable prompt. Here we issue the command failover make-primary. As you can see on the screen, we have an error secondary not configured. This is normal as we have not completed that task yet. We'll move on to the secondary management center and we'll do that task now. Same steps, command line, enable mode, but this time we'll issue failover make-secondary. It's going to ask us for the IP address of the primary that we noted earlier. It's going to confirm that we want to perform this task. It's asking, is our enable mode password protected? In this case, no. It would like to know our admin password for the CLI access to the Management Center. This is not the same as the GUI password, as these are separate passwords. At this point, it's going to be stopping the secondary and the primary services on both boxes, and it will start a replication process. This process can take varying amounts of time depending on the size of the database within Management Center, the network connection between the devices, and the number of jobs and proxies or other devices that it is managing. I'll pause the video at this time as it can take a long period of time. Now that the replication has completed, You'll see that on my screen here we have the primary and the secondary configured as failover and that the status is healthy. You can run a show status command on this screen and it will also tell you that. Also note the primary address and the secondary address and that we are on the secondary. And the services are stopped waiting. With the services stopped waiting, this tells us that this management center is functionally inoperable and is performing synchronization with the primary. Let's run the same command on the primary and compare the settings. Here you see that the settings are running and everything is operational. We'll log back on to the management console. And you'll notice that the icon at the top has a green check mark on it and that everything is synchronized and responding properly. We've now created an active-passive failover management center environment. One thing to take note of is that when you need to upgrade the management centers, you'll need to break the failover by running the failover disable command in the CLI on both management centers. You'll not be able to upgrade the units while failover is enabled. Should you experience an outage and you need to promote the secondary to become a primary, here are the following steps. Log on to the active or secondary failover partner and run the command failover make primary. Once this is finished, you'll need to log on and re-enable the statistics monitoring. Please refer to the configuration guide on how to perform this task. When the proxy is first connected to a management center, the proxy sets up a connection for monitoring statistics, and this is not carried forward. Once you have completed these commands, you'll be able to go in and fix the original primary device. And at that point, it's up to you to make it either a new secondary or to re-promote it as a primary. More information on these steps can be found in the configuration guide off the Symantec Support's website. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it's helped.